What's up, gang? Since I renovated my studio a couple months ago, a lot of people have been asking about it. What's on the walls, what type of gear are you using, etc. So the time has finally come for the studio tour / renovation blog. In this video, I'm going to walk you through all of the gear I use and also the thought process behind the decisions that I made in the renovation itself.
Don't think about you, and I don't try. Let myself wonder what you really feel like. 'Cause I like an ocean between us both. Don't get me wrong, I like when you're close.
So let's start by talking about the walls. The acoustic treatment. So obviously, as someone who runs online drumming education website, constantly making content, the purple velvet was just not cutting it anymore. So this was a primary motivation for the renovation. It needs to look better on camera. Again, the website is growing. Everything just needs to level up production value wise, and it needs to look as good as the content is, the teaching content. So I had seen Carter McLean's stuff online and thought the acoustic treatment he had going on was just beautiful. So I hit him up. He turned me on to Automute, and I just can't say enough good things at this point. But Automute, once you start seeing them, you can't stop seeing them, which is because they do an awesome job. And Mitch, the head of the company, they do mostly like corporate acoustic treatment, but he's a drummer, and so he's always super keen to get involved in creative projects. He's always renovating studios, treating sound, soundproofing studios and stuff like that. So Automute rocks. And Mitch was absolutely awesome throughout the whole process. He's like a great creative partner to back and forth with, because this was all new to me as far as like, I'm trying to just think like, what is possible? How do I narrow down the options? And he was cool just going back and forth with me. What I finally ended on, okay, one of my mottos right now in life is eccentricities don't age well. I keep thinking this about many different things. So what I wanted to go for was something kind of timeless. And background, right? It's about, when you're looking at me on the drum set, I want you to see me teaching the drums and not, be enamored by this incredible backdrop. But the thing I go for in my teaching is I go for, my whole thing is like, it's a more rigorous, more demanding, more academically sound approach to learning the drums, right? So I don't do the sort of fun edutainment stuff. I do university level rigor for all levels, right? That's what I'm trying to do. So I wanted to try to capture the design here on this back wall was like wood paneling that you might find in a library or something. But I always found that if I put wood on the background, it ended up looking like I was in a barn. And that's not the vibe. So I was going for this wood paneling, and this deep blue was just the color that I felt would look nice on camera, would sort of complement the tealish blue of my website logo, and so forth. This is not wood. This is actually acoustic paneling. This is what's crazy about Automute, is everything you see is acoustic paneling. So like this is concrete looking stuff, but it's acoustic paneling. So you can basically get anything done. And this was fun. I mean, this was an idea that he'd kind of done before, but I kind of custom designed it for this. So the first big step, if I'm actually walking you through the renovation, clear the room out, rip the carpet out. Absolutely disgusting. I don't want to talk about it. Redid the carpet, started putting panels on the walls. I actually put them all up and then decided I wanted to switch these two walls, so I redid them. But it's super easy. You just like staple gun basically things to the wall. The next little design thing, again, sort of like reveals a key feature of the motivation behind all this, which was to make content creation as smooth and resistance-free as possible, so that everything is essentially always set up, ready to go, and things that I need are easily accessible. Things that I don't need get sold on Facebook Marketplace and no longer exist. And this next little bit is kind of part of this pragmatism. I wanted to have a nice little backdrop here, right? So this is a little something back there, the ride cymbal wall. But the pragmatic side of this is these are all rides I actually use. And I'm always compulsively switching out my rides just because, I don't know. It's just, as I'm practicing, I'm just flipping out rides. I just love doing it. So they're here and they're all sitting there. And when I want one, I just take it. So it's decorative, but also doubles as a super pragmatic thing where all my rides are literally within an arm's length, and I can throw them on the kit. While we're still at the fairly general level, the other goal I had was to get as much as possible off of the floor. I've always hated having mic stands and tripods everywhere that you're constantly tripping over and stepping over. You can't clean around them. Weird dust and weird stuff gathers around them. So as much as I could, things are attached to the ceiling. So you've got obviously film lights, and then you've got the overhead mics, which we'll talk about in greater detail in a sec. Over in this corner, there's another film light so that I can sit where I just was a second ago and look decent without needing to move things around the room. The other tiny little thing that I always hated doing, and these tiny things matter because that resistance builds up and then will prevent you from doing the creative work you want to do, is that I always had to move my computer back and forth from the drums to the desk, to the drums to the desk, whenever I was doing anything, because I had no way of comfortably working on the computer from the drums. And when it was at the desk where I could comfortably work, nothing was plugged in and I couldn't do any of the stuff that I needed to do. So we'll do a deep dive on the desk in a sec, but the only thing you need to know now is that the computer stays there all the time. And there's a secondary monitor, and there's a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse in that top drawer with some mess, so that I can essentially do all of the same things from the drum set, which is obviously helpful when, I'm doing a live stream or I'm responding to a student video for a progress post. Now let's get into the details. Drums. I've been playing DW drums since I won the Guitar Center drum off 12 years ago. We have an amazing relationship. They make the greatest drums on earth. This is my go-to kit, has been for years. It's a DW Jazz Series maple gum wood combination. That's the standard Jazz Series. Absolutely love it. And then I have an outer ply of olive ash burl, which is just a beautiful exotic wood they offer. The snare drum I use most often is their thin aluminum 6.5 by 14. It's just a great general workhorse snare. It's really easy to tune. It has like the powerful qualities of a metal snare drum, but it's very thin so that it's not loud, doesn't hurt your ears, it doesn't have that bing kind of thing going on. It's just a nice, balanced, versatile snare drum. I've been endorsing Remo also since the drum off days. One of the tricks I do is coated emperors on top for toms, coated ambassadors on bottom for toms. Put a couple cotton balls in each of the floor toms. These are all Benny Grubb tricks that I'm stealing, and they sound amazing. Always a DW9000 on the kick. Always a DW9000 two-legged hi-hat pedal. Always Meinl cymbals. I would tell you what gear I always use, but honestly, I'm always switching stuff out. The thing that is almost always on my kit is these hi-hats, though. 14-inch Byzance Foundry Reserve hi-hats. They just sound like your quintessential, perfectly balanced hi-hat. They feel amazing to play. They work in every genre. They're great. Let's talk about microphones. Almost all of the sound you hear in all of my videos comes from the overheads and a crotch mic. And then I just put in a little bit of a close mic on the kick and snare mics to beef it up a little bit. But it's a really simple setup. I'm no mix engineer. And I like to keep things simple and natural sounding. So overheads, AKG C414s, again attached to the ceiling. They float always just off camera, but roughly that height. I will adjust the height if I'm actually recording something for an album or something, but I don't need to think about that when I'm just doing online videos. The crotch mic, a crotch mic, as you can guess, is pointing at your crotch, is this tube mic. This is an SE Z5600A2. I never remember the name of that when I'm not looking at it. Usually this is actually placed right next to my kick drum in there, pointing at, you guessed it, my crotch. But sometimes I'll just put it back here. It actually gets a great sort of general room sound, gets a lot of nice low end that the overheads don't capture as much of. And I'll mix it in there. And whether I put it there or here, it's just a matter of whether I want it in the shot, whether I want it in my way, etc. Super common close mics. This is EV, ElectroVoice, EV's version of a D6. All these kick mics basically sound the same. The Audix D6, the D112, this EV something I don't even know the name of. And then on the snare drum, classic SM57 on top, the Audix i5 on the bottom, which is their SM57 ripoff, so you might as well just put a 57 on the bottom too. I just happen to have gotten that for free from a contest a very long time ago. And that's the mic setup. Now just a couple last little audio things. All of the mics are going into my Apollo X8P interface. For those not familiar, interface is what translates the microphone signal into a digital signal that your computer can read. So this sits underneath this, which is the top that comes with the Husky drawers. This was one of my favorite purchases I've made because, again, thinking about efficiency, pragmatism, it's a table, it doubles as storage. Boom. Cables, random jinglies and janglies, drumsticks and brushes, keyboard, random stuff that I frequently need, in-ears, drum key, and some mess. Headphones are always plugged in, magnetic thing so that they can hang on here and they're always available, but they're out of sight of the camera. These are Snare, whatever they're called, muffles. They happen to be magnetic, so they sit over here too. So now we're sitting at the drums, which is the secondary control station. So from here, if we think about this little table over here, this is where we need to be able to control all the things, right? So we can control things like volume, things like headphones. This second out goes to that box that we'll talk about in a sec. That microphone here, this is a small diaphragm condenser mic, Audix, what's it called? ADX-51, could be anything. That's what picks up my voice when I am talking to the camera, because I like to try to film when I can without a microphone in my face. So that picks it up. And then in Logic, I use a ducker. It's the opposite of a noise gate. A noise gate, when nothing's happening, turns the noise off. So you set a threshold, and when it's loud enough, it opens the gate and lets all the sound, and it gets, so this gets rid of like, just like noise that's happening in between your speech. Gets rid of that. The ducker does the opposite. It mutes the channel when too much noise is happening. So when I play my drums, I don't have to edit out all the drumming, but I can still use a mic like that. It picks up my voice, the gain is turned way up to like plus 35 dB. So if you heard the drums, they would sound just like super distorted and terrible and it would hurt your ears. But the ducker has a look ahead feature, so it looks ahead a few milliseconds, which means that when I hit a snare drum, it goes, oh look, a snare drum's coming. Something super loud is coming, turns itself off until that loudness stops, and then it eases back in. You set like the release, the hold and the release and all that stuff. The ducker has been key in me making these videos, and if you make similar types of videos, that's a nice little hack to keep in mind. So that microphone goes to this mute switch. Why do I need a mute switch if I was just saying that it happens automatically? Well, I also like to try to use that, oops. I also like to try to use that non-microphone in the face situation when I'm doing a live stream. So when I'm doing a live stream, it's not going through Logic and it can't use a ducker. So then I am using this mic switch and I go push to talk, and I talk, and then I'm gonna play the drums, and I click it and I can play the drums and it mutes that mic so it doesn't destroy your ears. Now let's start thinking about video. So over on this table, you've got this main camera. That is a Canon R6 with a 14 to 35 f4 lens on it for those who want to nerd out. This is the monitor showing me what's going on. Right, that's a primary shot that I'll use when I'm demonstrating things on the drum set. This is the side shot for my lessons on my website. Obviously the main shot is from the front, but oftentimes when I do live streams, I just like to talk to the side camera. So there's that, and then this box, this is the ATEM Mini Pro. I'm about to exchange it for the ATEM Mini Pro ISO. And all this means is you can plug 4 cameras into this via HDMI. So I don't have the other ones plugged in right now, but I often do have a second one plugged in here. It'll show that second camera, first camera, etc. like that. And with the ISO, for you content creators out there, what it allows you to do is plug in a hard drive and record all of the cameras that you have plugged into it all at once onto that hard drive. And it'll have the exact same starting place. So, right, they're all plugged in, they're all running. You don't have to like go take your cards out, plug them in your computer and like import all the footage. This takes way too long. You have a hard drive plugged into that box and all the cameras come in. You push record on the box and the box records all the cameras into your hard drive and it's done. So you don't have to go around taking your cards out and importing them. You plug that hard drive in your computer and then it's all there. They all line up because they all have the same starting point. That's great. So that helps me more efficiently make, for example, content for Instagram and YouTube. When I record my lessons, I don't do that because I want to record in 4K and that only maxes out at 1080. And then lastly, I've got my phone tripod. I can plug a cable into this, which plugs in down here to this one, and then that can run into the computer to be recorded as well. And again, one thing you'll notice here, camera, and there's another little potential camera tripod right here that I often use. No tripods on the ground. I initially thought about wall mounting all these, but I needed to be a little more adaptable, right? I often slide these left and right and whatever I need to do, move them up and down. So this was just another way to not have 2 camera tripods smashed up against each other over there. Now for maybe my favorite part, the desk. I spend a lot of time here. I've tried to make it nice, and again, efficient and all the things. So I found this Husky like tool chest work desk, as in like you're meant to like use tools and have this in your garage kind of situation. But it works extremely well for me because it's got these 2 gigantic drawers and you crank this lever right here and it becomes a stand-up desk. So I spend many hours at my computer out of necessity, as do most people nowadays. So I wanted to do that sort of comfortably, and you only need to crank the lever about just like 80 times to make it stand up. So it's a good little arm workout there too. ATEM A7X monitors, they sound great. My general goal here was to have, again, everything as efficient as possible. So basically what happens is I walk in and set my computer down on this thing and plug all the things in. All the things are the power, the interface over there that records, the ATEM Mini Pro, the video box. So if I'm doing a live stream through the program eCam Live or something like that, I can be over there at the drums. I can be clicking between different camera angles, and they can all be coming, changing in like a Zoom stream, or which I do, subscriber ask me anything. So I do the last Sunday of every month. So I can do those. If we're talking about double bass, I can have a foot cam set up and go boom. So that's great. The HDMI cable that goes to the secondary monitor, and then an extra USB port where I can plug in right now the iLock, the Ethernet, the hard drives for editing all the footage. And then if I need to, we can swizzle this around and we have a second monitor. And if we want to really get into work mode, we bring out the ergonomic keyboard, the ergonomic mouse. Oh wait, we moisturize and we get to work. The last little desk thing that is worth mentioning is I did rig up my handy cam to the wall with an HDMI cable ready to be plugged into my computer, so that when I do a video interview on someone's YouTube channel or something like that, it looks a little better. And then the SM7 mic is ready to be pulled down and used as well. That's going into that same interface over there. The other thing that I was weirdly excited about during the renovation was finally having a whiteboard to keep track of all the crap you gotta do. The last thing that I would strongly recommend, which I did very intentionally, is right, so behind the screen, the part you never really see on camera, I'm just gonna turn on just like the regular light here for a sec so you can see better, is just a big shelf, right? So obviously, you know, trying to organize it and everything's, but this is the space that I would advise setting up for yourself. It's just a space to put random crap all the time. It's always the same crap, right? It's like cameras, lenses, this microphone that I frequently plug into my phone, like a monitor that goes on the screen, on the camera, so I can actually see what it looks like from way over there on the drums. Stuff that you need all the time, but you don't want to actually like put away. Again, the resistance, just enough to prevent you from doing things, but that you also don't want to just like have randomly laid around. One thing I hated about the way that my space was before, I didn't have enough places to put things. So there was just kind of like stuff that I actually kind of needed sometimes all over the place. So to set aside a surface for stuff that you are frequently taking, but then you got to pay attention. As soon as like you've got some crap gathering up there and you haven't needed it for 2 months, find a place to actually store it, because you're obviously not needing it all the time. You might be thinking, really though, where's all the other stuff, JP? There's more stuff, but we have a storage unit around the corner, and that's where the other stuff is, right? My other drum set, like the rock drum set, a ladder, cymbals that I don't need to use, hardware that I don't need to use. Again, my goal was to have this room as cleared out of unnecessary stuff, so there's nothing in my way, nothing standing between me and doing my job and doing the creative work, because there's just so much, you know, administrative and logistical BS in life that it can be really hard to get at the real work. So my goal was to clear as much out as possible so that the real work is more easily accessible. So that's the new studio. Thanks for watching. If I missed anything you're curious about, post a comment and I'll get back to you. Otherwise, like, subscribe, check out jpbouvetmethod.com, and I'll talk to you soon. Later.
Oh, yeah, yeah.